State Prison to help make reform something that can really work. I'm going to be calling this show Creating a Real Second Chance, so stay with us. We're about to start the show. All right, and remember, you're backstage with Change It Up Radio. All righty, here we go.
Tired of Paula Shaw.
Welcome to Change It Up Radio with Paula Shaw. I'm so glad you're here today because we have a very important show. My guest today, Brahman Kyrie, a spiritual teacher right here in San Diego, is doing some very unique and powerful work with inmates in Donovan State Prison. And I love what she's doing, and I want to help tell the whole world about it because we would love it if this model got out to every prison in the world. It's extraordinary, so stay with us. We are going to be talking with Brahman Kyrie shortly. You know, here at Change It Up Radio, we're all about change, right? We talk each week about the fact that we feel it's important to bring you information that helps make change smoother, more productive, and just something that's easier to live with because, as we've said before, we humans have a love-hate relationship with change. We love change because it keeps things new and interesting, and it gives us opportunities for growth. But we just basically, deep down in our souls, hate the discomfort of it. We don't like feeling foreign in our lives or in situations. And so even though we want it, we also have an issue with it. And as you know, I'm a life transitions therapist and author and a speaker. And all the work I do is really about helping people deal with change. So in my private practice, I do a lot of work with energy tools. I use energy psychology. I use neuroscience. I use mind-body techniques because they help us bypass the conscious mind, which is only a small 5% of our mind functioning, and they take us right to the subconscious mind, which is 95% of our mind functioning. So we can create change much more quickly and much more effectively working with the subconscious, working with the energy of the body, rather than just working with the small percentage of the conscious mind that we access in regular talk therapy. So one of the things that I'm also very excited about right now is my new book, Saying the Right Thing When You Don't Know What to Say. And I'm very excited about that book because it's really helping people get through those difficult situations, those difficult conversations. You know, the ones where you're just dreading having that talk because you don't know exactly what to say, or something so awful happened to your friend or your family member that you want to help, but you also don't want to hurt. And when you don't feel confident about what to say and what to do, then you're worried that you're going to say or do something that's going to make things worse. So this little book gives you the 5 basic steps of successful, supportive communication, and it gives you lists of things that are helpful to say, lists of things that are not helpful to say, and even a list if you're the person who's hurting and people are saying things to you that might be hurting you worse, or maybe they're just trivial or inane, or they're making you feel defensive. I've also got lists in there of suggested things that you can say in response, because as we all know, most people are doing their best and they're trying to help us. But when they don't know what to say, sometimes what comes out can be really hurtful. So in looking at this whole topic of transitions and change, I I decided today that I really wanted to do some educating and some focusing on what is going on in the prison system in our country. You know, one of the things that I talk about in this book is when you're having a difficult conversation, you need to go into it with the right mindset. And in thinking about that, I realized that right mindset is so important in every area of our lives. It's especially important when we are going through some kind of a life transition. It's really important when we are dealing with change. And we're going to be talking in just a little bit with Brahman Kyrie, a spiritual teacher here in San Diego, who had an idea about approaching prison reform, helping prisoners in a new kind of way. And it's a way that I'm very excited about. But one of the things that occurred to me when I was preparing for this show is what she's really doing is helping them to have the right mindset. When we don't have the right mindset, it's very difficult for us to succeed in any area of our lives. If we're not feeling that we matter, if we're not feeling a sense of self-love, if we're not feeling that what we do matters, then it's very difficult to care. It's very difficult to feel good waking up in your skin each day. So I want to focus a little bit on this idea of having the right mindset. I know just recently a client said to me, well, when I get in that place where I'm just really scared, I'm really anxious, I don't know what to do. What can I do? How can I get out of that place? And I know we've all been there, right? And one of the things that I shared with her, I'd like to share with you this morning, move to gratitude. I can remember a time in my life when I was really scared. I was really scared whether my children and I were going to survive. And you know, it was hard to think about something to be grateful for. But I started really small. It was like, there's food in the cupboard. I'm grateful for that. There's a warm bed to sleep in tonight. I'm grateful for that. The flowers are blooming. The sky is blue. The temperature's perfect today. There's a lovely fragrance in the air. There's so many things to be grateful for. And guess what happens when you move to gratitude? Your vibration raises. And then when your vibration raises, you begin feeling better, naturally. And my client looked at me and she said, oh, you know, I think I do a version of that sometimes. I put on the music from The Greatest Showman, and it's all this stuff about self-love. And I start dancing, and I start moving around. And I said, oh, I love that. I'm going to do that too. So I'm getting that soundtrack right away. And you all may want to as well, because movement is a great way to help us shift to a higher vibration. So whether that's riding a bike or kickboxing or going for a jog or even just having a nice brisk walk, moving your body gets that energy going in the right direction. So when you're feeling scared or angry or sad or whatever might come up for you, remember, you're not a helpless victim. There's always something that you can move to. There's always some place you can go, even if it's just starting to move and dance, even if it's just singing at the top of your lungs. I can remember when I was first going through my divorce and my two children and I were living alone, and sometimes I'd come home after the end of a long day, and my daughter, Erin Shaw, has a beautiful voice. She's a wonderful singer. And so I'd come home, she'd take one look at me, and she'd pick up anything that looked like it was in the shape of a microphone. And she'd put on Whitney Houston or some Mariah Carey or some music, and we would just start belting songs out together. And I'm telling you, it totally transformed me. It gave me energy, it gave me joy, and it gave me a more optimistic perspective of life. So don't get stuck. Don't sit in your corner just thinking that it's all awful and that nothing will help and that, you know, there's no hope for you. Get moving. Do something. and get grateful. Those are two of my favorite things. Sing, dance, move to gratitude. I love gratitude walks too, because that incorporates a lot of all of that, gets you moving and breathing fresh air and looking around at what there is to be grateful for. Now, in just a moment, I am going to be joined here by my very special guest today, who is very special in my own personal life because she's also my spiritual teacher, and she's an extraordinary human being, and she's got quite a story, and she's got this major work that she has begun doing. She had an idea, and I'm going to let her tell you about it, but what I realized when I started doing some research on the situation in prisons in our country, it was really shocking to me. First of all, how many people are incarcerated, but even more sadly, how many after they get out end up going back. Let me run just a few statistics by you. Oh, but I wanted to share something really important first. We are on the eve of Second Chance Month. April has been declared Second Chance Month. U.S. Senator Rob Portman introduced a resolution for a bipartisan national movement called Second Chance Month. And it's all about honoring the idea that every person has God-given dignity and potential, and every person deserves a chance. So we're calling this show A Real Second Chance. And in just a moment, I'll be joined by Brahman Kyrie, and we'll talk about what she's doing to try and give those inmates a second chance. We'll be right back. Come on.
We'll be right back with more Change It Up with Paula Shaw on AM 1170, The Answer.
Now, more than ever, it's important for women to understand why they need a financial strategy. Women tend to make less money than men, live longer, and face more financial challenges during retirement. Hi, I'm Sherry Blair. With evolving roles and increasing responsibilities, women are seeking out ways to become more knowledgeable about their finances. My life's work has been to empower women to make good financial decisions today to help ensure you have a bright future tomorrow. I'm here to help you learn more and to become more. Give me a call for your free no-obligation consultation or a second opinion at 619-997-0416. 619-997-0416. That's 619-997-0416.
Sherry Blair is registered with and securities are offered through Brokers International Financial Services, LLC, member SIPC. Brokers International Financial Services, LLC is not an affiliated company. California license number 0B42369.
Hi, I'm Kelly Klein of One Trust Home Loans, Loan Coach Kelly. A while back, my business was in a slump, and it triggered a lot of self-doubt and fear, and it even had me questioning if I'd made the right career choice. So I booked a session with Paula Shaw. And after hearing my predicament, she explained that when we get into negative, self-sabotaging thinking and we are being run over by our limiting beliefs, it's almost impossible to create positive outcomes. She helped me clear those destructive thoughts and beliefs using her cutting-edge energy psychology techniques. Not only did I feel a whole lot better after the session, but within 2 weeks, I had 7 loans in my pipeline. I was so glad that I went to see Paula Shaw. And you should too. It really changed my perspective on life, business, and now my business is going great. You can reach her at 626-864-0756. That's 626-864-0756. 626-864-0756. Or check her out at paulashaw.com. That's paulashaw.com.
Welcome back to Change It Up. Now here's your host, Paula Shaw.
Welcome back to Change It Up Radio with Paula Shaw. I'm so excited about our show today because we're talking about something super important. I'm being joined in this segment by Brahman Kyrie, a spiritual teacher here in San Diego who's doing some amazing work. But before we hear from her, I want to just tell you a little bit that I found out about our prison system. First of all, I was absolutely blown away that the U.S. has more than 70 million adults with a criminal record. In the last 40 years, even though crime has gone down, incarceration hasn't. It's pretty amazing. It's actually, the prison population has surged by 700%, which means more than 2 million people are in state and federal prisons. And let me go through what they say the purpose of prison is. There are 4 basic purposes. One is catharsis. So basically, the punishment for whatever the person did. Another is deterrence. So yes, if you get taken away from everything that's meaningful to you, that it'll be a deterrent to doing something wrong in the future. Another one is incapacitation, which means if you take the person away from the environment and the people who they were with when they got in trouble, that it may give them a second chance at being able to do better. But then the most important part of prison experience is supposed to be rehabilitation. But unfortunately, there's something that's really pretty awful, and that is a BJS cohort study revealed that within 3 years of release from prison, 67.8% of prisoners have been arrested for a new crime. And what's really sad about that is the most likely ones to be arrested for a new crime are the inmates who were 24 years of age or younger. They get arrested for a new crime. Channel funding toward programs that aid reentry into society. Because here's a big part of the problem, which I didn't even realize. A big part of the problem is that many of the people, after they've served time in prison, their release brings a new kind of prison, which is homelessness and poverty, because their criminal record limits access to jobs, education, housing, all the things they need to try to get a fresh start. So we've got a real problem here. But with me right now is a lady who's trying to make a difference, who's doing some work to try to change that rehabilitation piece and give these men a true chance in life. So let me tell you just a little bit about Brahman Kyrie. She's a spiritual leader and master healer who lives here in Encinitas, California. She's also the founder of the Brahman Project, a humanitarian foundation focused on spiritual education for the soul, sacred ceremony, meditation, healing, prison rehabilitation programs, and support for animals here in the United States and globally. And may I tell you from my own personal experience, because she's my spiritual teacher, this is one amazing human being. And I am honored and delighted to have you with me today.
Thank you, Paula. Thanks for having me. It's just such a blessing to be able to come here and share some of the really amazing positive things that are happening in the prison system today.
Yes.
Yep.
You know what? I just realized something. Oh, it's okay. So I'm sorry. Let me get focused again. I just realized I forgot to start the time clock. So I have no idea where we are, but we're going to just play it by ear.
We're going to keep going.
So, Brahman Kyrie, you are going into Donovan State Prison, and you're doing work with these men, and I'm sure many people out there are going, oh my God, I can't imagine wanting to do that. But would you share a little bit about your own personal story and what drives you to want to do that kind of work?
Well, so my life hasn't always been a spiritual one, Paula. And, I stopped doing self-defeating stuff like drinking and drugging and all that kind of stuff 12 years ago. And I got clean and sober, and I started to recover. But before that, my life was very much driven by lots of pain, and what I know to be true is that hurt people. And so I hurt a lot of people in that time of my life, and I just perpetuated my own pain because of my self-defeating beliefs and behaviours. I was unaware of that at that time, but then I sort of got clean and sober and started on this amazing journey into my own healing, but then realizing that, oh my God, now that I've found a way out, I just really want to give it to other people to help them find a way out of that.
Mm-hmm. That is so beautiful. So you said something that I think is maybe the core of what drives you. You said, hurt people hurt people. So is that what gave you a heart for these prisoners? I mean, what made you wake up one day and go, I think I'm going to call Donovan State Prison?
I don't know. The way that unfolded was a friend of mine was doing work in there, and they said to me, maybe you should come in and do some work. And I was like, well, maybe they might want a satsang or a musical meditation is what a satsang is. Maybe they might want some healing in there. And then we sent one of the satsangs in a live recording on Facebook Live. We sent it in, and then I went in there to meet them, and it just all sort of flowed from there. But absolutely, that I come from that kind of lifestyle. I come from before the age of 27. I was very much living in that lifestyle of, there was lots of crime and there was lots of pain, there was lots of suffering, and I know it well. And so I feel like, what better person who has personal experience around that stuff to be able to share with these men. And what I have learned is, what helped me the most in my journey was, yes, all these great spiritual teachings, but it was the love. It was the love that was given to me by people in my life that really believed in me and held hope for me to transform from who I once was into the person that I was always meant to be, but I just didn't know it. And a lot of these men are like, I think it's really important. You touched on rehabilitation, and it's like, if we don't rehabilitate these guys, they're not only a danger to themselves, but they're also a danger to society, when they're let out. And I think we forget that. I think sometimes the system has been so focused on the punishment, and of course there has to be consequences for actions, and there has to be that component of keeping society safe, of course, and then we need to do all that is in our power to rehabilitate these people for their own soul and for the people on the outside.
Absolutely. So would you share a little bit about what are you doing with these guys?
Sure. Well, I run spiritual education classes for them, and I teach them about mantra. So, and particularly those people, so these programs are in the mainstream prison system, so they're in all the different yards, not in all of them yet, but they will be, but also in solitary confinement or ADSEG, where these guys, if they have acted out on their own yard, they get taken to solitary confinement. And, I think that's in the process of being checked out, this solitary confinement, around actually, does it produce more? I think it produces more pain, and then, of course, more bad behaviour in these men. But while it's still operating, I think it's imperative that we take the healing there too, particularly because a lot of the time they're pretty surrendered when they're in that place, and so I teach them things to utilise their mind, because I know that part of the problem is that we have an unhealthy mind, like you said before. We have to change the way we think, and a lot of these guys, like, it's really full on, like they grow up, they're born into an environment that is so negative and so criminal that, of course, how are they going to be any other way? And so, yes, it's about being accountable for their actions that put them in prison, and then we need to spend and devote our time to helping them unlearn all of those really self-defeating ways their mind has been trained to think, and give them a new way, particularly those guys, that have been in gangs and what I know that to be. I mean, I teach them about their inner child a lot of the time, and the inner child is our emotional body and, our feeling nature, and also all of the pain and trauma. Like, these guys need to have their pain and trauma healed so they can have an opportunity to react differently to life. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to. So I teach them all about their inner child repeatedly, and we get healing. I help them to facilitate healing with their inner child, and so they can self-regulate, because a lot of the time when they're triggered, just like me, just like I used to, when I got triggered, it was like I got triggered and then I had no option. I just reacted straight away, and so we're helping them pause, leave space for grace, insert a mantra in the mind, parent their inner child, and like what you were speaking about before, like being of service or gratitude and raising the vibration so they have an opportunity to respond differently to life than all of their old ideas would have them.
So I'm dying to ask you, how do rough, tough criminal guys respond to inner child work?
Do you know what? Like, really well. Because, really well. Because it's their emotions, and I often, I share my own experience about my struggles with my emotions. Like, I just could never get them under control, and they always led me. I would have really disturbing emotional reactions to things coupled with an obsessive mind. Like, once something went wrong, my mind would obsess about it like a dog with a bone. and then I would have all these emotions. And so when we teach about the inner child and we help them to understand that, and we reclaim their little boy, or then we have a lot of transgender too, so we reclaim their little girl. And, like, it's just when they experience the healing, initially, some are a little reluctant, but then when we have that experience of, through the meditation, actually doing the regression work and helping them to heal, and they have the physical experience in the cells of their body, in their own heart, it's no joke, it's real. And so when they have that experience, you can't deny that.
And I mean, have you ever experienced them like coming to tears? Or
All the time.
Really?
All the time. Yep, all the time.
Oh,
and that's the thing. It's like there's profound, like what I want to see. I want to see TV stations, radio stations covering that stuff. I want to see them covering all the amazing transformations that are occurring in these men. Like I took 8 of my students in there. We did a beautiful satsang where 180 men voluntarily came to this musical meditation, many of them crying, healing, singing and meditating together, and, cover that stuff. Like, we want that stuff to be covered because that's actually what's happening. I mean, I'm in there 3 full days a week, so it's like that stuff's happening more than any of the riots and stuff, so we want that stuff to be covered.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That needs to be on the front page.
Totally
on the front page. And I have seen some footage of that satsang, and oh my Lord, I there wasn't a dry eye in the room. Those of us who were looking at it, it is so beautiful,
profound,
and it reminds you that every person does have that beautiful divine soul within them.
Yep.
And when we come back from this break, we're going to be talking some more about this incredible work with Brahman Kyrie. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back with more Change It Up with Paula Shaw on AM 1170, The Answer.
Sometimes life throws you a curve. It can be a health scare, divorce, loss of a job, or death of a loved one. And big changes can make you feel stressed out and anxious, depressed, or unable to sleep. Nothing feels comfortable or safe. And that's a tough place to be. Wouldn't it be nice to have someone to talk it over with? Someone who understands why you feel the way you do and knows how to help. Paula Shaw is a life transitions counselor, an expert therapist that can help you deal with unwanted destabilizing change or disruption in your life. Using a variety of mind-body techniques and psychology processes, she helps identify the key issues, eliminating self-sabotage and doubt to get you rapid results. Paula Shaw Counseling is open to all people, all ages, and all walks of life. Big life changes can be tough. Paula Shaw can help you get through it. Call 858-480-9234. That's 858-480-9234. 858-480-9234.
When you're the victim of an accident or someone's negligence, insurance companies are not going to give you fair compensation for your injuries, damage to your property, and lost income. They actually try to minimize your claim. Don't sign anything until you talk with John Sahar and the Sahar Law Firm in Carlsbad. For over 29 years, John has done battle and has won millions of dollars in damages, medical bills, loss of earnings, and pain and suffering for his clients. John Sahar will stand toe-to-toe with the big insurance companies to make sure you get every dime the law demands, and you don't pay until John collects money on your behalf. From San Diego to LA, Santa Barbara to San Bernardino, for auto accidents, product liability, dog bites, any injury caused by another. If it brings pain and suffering, bring Sahar to the case. For a free case evaluation, call 760-683-2048. 760-683-2048. The Sahar Law Firm, fighting for you. 760-683-2048.
Welcome back to Change It Up. Now here's your host, Paula Shaw.
Yeah, we're going to have way more to talk about than that. Hi, welcome back to Change It Up Radio with Paula Shaw. In studio with me today, my very special guest is Brahman Kyrie, a spiritual teacher here in Encinitas, California. And we have been talking about this amazing work that she is doing at Donovan State Prison, which is a prison for men. So she is working right now only with men. But we are excited about this model growing out there and eventually being in all prisons. In my opinion, it should be in every prison all over the world. But if you're just joining us, we are talking about spiritual education classes and meditation work that she is doing with these men and helping them connect to their inner child and heal that inner child. Because one of the problems we've looked at is that a huge percentage, like 67% of the inmates after they're released are rearrested within 3 years. Because when they get out there, there's a stigma, there's the criminal record, which I didn't even realize can prevent them from getting education, from getting certain kinds of housing, from getting jobs. So then they get trapped in this prison of homelessness and poverty. And because of the way they grow up, the only thing they know how to do, because they don't have those inner resources, they don't love themselves so much that they feel something else is possible, they commit a crime again. Brahman Kyrie is trying to help them heal. In fact, her project is called Freedom on the Inside, and I love that name. So tell me, how did you come up with that name, and where is it taking you there in Donovan State Prison?
Well, freedom for me has been the most amazing blessing I've ever received, because I lived a life that was very imprisoned by my mind and my circumstances and all that kind of thing. And so when I was creating this program, I think the most amazing thing that I have learned over the last 12 years of being on a spiritual path is that I can have freedom no matter what's going on around me, even if my outside, situation might be the same, I can actually get freedom on the inside. And so I'm teaching these guys how they can have freedom even if they're inside. They can still have freedom and be liberated by being liberated from their mind and their old emotional trauma, pain and woundedness kind of thing.
That's so beautiful. I remember seeing a movie once, and I can't remember which movie it was, but there was a man who actually was in, what do you call it when they're all alone?
Solitary confinement.
Solitary confinement.
Yeah.
But he knew how to meditate. And in his meditation, he could expand into the whole world, and that helped keep him sane.
And that's right. And that's why, while we have solitary confinement as being a sort of a prison inside a prison, while that's still operational, I think we absolutely need to be able to bring humanity to that. And while they're in solitary confinement, go and give them teaching and give them, ways to, master their mind. Otherwise, we're just creating more pain, and we're creating a more angry individual and a more mentally challenged individual, because taking people away from any kind of connection is really not the answer to helping rehabilitate or change behaviour. Even though I understand there has to be some consequence, I think we have to bring humanity into the picture here and be able to give them spiritual education and tools for healing and rehabilitation whilst they're in there.
One of the things you said, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, or may have even been longer, that I'm telling people all the time now, when things look darkest, when you're most distraught and most upset, or a situation is really difficult, throw some more love at it.
Yeah, because as I learned from my Australian teacher, Shakti Derga, she says that, love will dissolve everything that's negative and empower and enrich everything that's good. And so what I really feel like there needs to be is for people to be able to go into this environment in the prison and still hold love, and be able to hold love for these guys, to be able to remember who they are, and a lot of them, they're doing amazing things. And this is the thing where I think there needs to be a bridge made between prison and then when they get out, is that a lot of these guys have been in there for like 20, 40 years, and they go to church all the time, and they're active in their community, and they're doing amazing things in there, and then they get a release date, and then what they've shared with me is that they are somebody in there, they're doing great things in there, and then when they get released, there's, as you said, all this stigma. They can't get a job, they can't vote, they can't do it, and it's like, and they have community in there. And so what I'm trying to create, along with all the other spiritual programs that I'm doing in there, I'm trying to create like there are a few transitional housing opportunities for them, but I'm also trying to create a program where after they've been in class with me for a long time, and there's been rehabilitation, that when they get out, they get connected to a spiritual community where they are somebody, we all are somebody, but where they're loved and respected, and where there is love, and where there is opportunity, and where there is connection, because what they really need is connection, like all the rest of us.
Oh, that's so true. And this idea, I remember once reading in statistics about recovery, that there was not a lot of difference in success between something as upscale as, some of the really fancy programs and Betty Ford and AA, that the biggest factor that made the difference between whether someone stayed clean and sober or not was if they believed there was at least one significant person who cared, if they did,
and who they were emotionally connected to.
Yes.
And that's what there is, like a massive gaping abyss between when they're in prison and then when they get out. There's no emotional connection with anyone that they actually know, and so that's what I'm trying to foster. So at the moment we're also doing some really great community events where we've just been given, there's some amazing souls that are making some really great calls at Donovan State Prison at the moment. The warden, many of the captains who are saying yes to these really imperative, like really important projects. Like we've just been given the green light to paint the murals in Echo Yard and the other yards, and create meditation gardens and all of these things that bring, the soul needs colour and life and, to recover and to heal. And so they've just said yes to all of these amazing projects. And many people in that prison have been holding the vision for the beautification project that's actually just now been given the green light. And so my vision is that those people that feel the calling that I know in my community, we're going in there to do these things with them, and eat with them, and, like create with them, and build community and connection.
I am so excited about that, because I'm going to be one of the people that goes in there with you, because I think this is so incredible. And it's, in a way, it's sort of like giving them treatment like they're regular people again,
because they
love themselves and see that self, that beautiful God self inside that exists in all of us.
And I've got to say, they are like, there's so many, I mean, I won't go into the whole prison system around like when people get, they are, and a lot of them have made bad decisions like the rest of us do on a daily, on a daily, we do. We make bad decisions all the time, and especially when we're young and when we're 14 years old and 15 years old, and, when they've made a bad decision at the age of 14 that then gave them a 50-year sentence, like, it's kind of, when I look back and I think about when I was 14, oh my God, I'm lucky I'm not in prison, like I was making some terrible decisions at 14 and until the age of 27 actually. And so I go, they just made bad decisions like the rest of us, but for some reason they've ended up in prison. And so it's like, they are, I am you, you are me kind of thing. We are the same. And I just think that's really important to remember.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge to remember. You're right. We all do it. We all make bad decisions. I think I have many times been sitting with friends, and we've all just sort of said, thank you, God, we didn't end up in jail on that experience, or we didn't crash the car on that experience.
Right.
You know? Because we're not fully grown. 14, it's so sad to think
12.
that somebody's next 50 years is dictated by something that they did when they were that young.
Yeah.
Oh, now you have an event coming up where you're going to be sharing some of what's happening, and I have gotten to see some of this video, and it is the most beautiful, moving thing ever. I mean, I see a movie here eventually that I hope all of the money it makes will fund this project growing.
Yes, I hope so too.
But tell them about the event.
So the event is on the 3rd of April, so that's next Wednesday at Eve in Encinitas. And Eve is an amazing organic cafe run by Scott Steele, and he supports us and supports the whole community there in every way that he can. The yummiest vegan organic food and smoothies and drinks and stuff.
I never know what I'm eating when I'm there, but it's always
it's
delicious.
So good. It's so high vibe, you know. And we're having it there from 7 till 8 p.m. on Wednesday, the 3rd of April, and we invite you all to come along. It'll be a screening of the slideshow. Aaron Wilcox, who is the most phenomenal photographer, he captures the God in people. Like all his photos that he took that day, which I also took back into the prison so these guys could see their own light. He captures the light and the spirit of people. And so shout out to Aaron Wilcox. Whoop, whoop. So the slideshow is a creation of all of his photos that he's taken. And so we'll be screening that on Wednesday night.
So Wednesday, April 3rd. And remember, it's the beginning of Second Chance Month, which we'll be talking a little bit more about in our next segment with Brahman Kyrie. But this is an event for everybody, and trust me on this. I have seen the video. It is one of the most beautiful, moving things you will ever see. So bring everybody you know and be there at 7:30?
7 p.m.
7 p.m. Okay. And we'll be back in just a moment with Brahman Kyrie to talk a little bit more about what you can do to help with this project.
We'll be right back with more Change It Up with Paula Shaw on AM 1170, The Answer.
Jack Gutman survived World War II and then returned home to the hardest fight of his life with PTSD and alcoholism. Now at age 93, he's a businessman and comedian, sharing his message of recovery and hope in his new book, One Veteran's Journey to Heal the Wounds of War, helping our heroes and anyone who has experienced PTSD find happiness again. Get Jack Gutman's new book, One Veteran's Journey to Heal the Wounds of War, at Amazon.com. Or to order a signed copy, call 714-525-4954.
For those looking to improve their lives, there's nobody better to turn to than Paula Shaw. Paula helps people regain successful lives by identifying and eliminating self-sabotaging behavior using a multitude of mind-body techniques to identify and resolve their core issues. Working with a wide variety of healing modalities, she provides her clients with the most effective process for their specific needs. To book a session with Paula, call 858-480-9234. That's 858-480-9234.
Welcome back to Change It Up. Now here's your host, Paula Shaw.
Welcome back to Change It Up Radio with Paula Shaw. And in studio with me today, I am honored to have Brahman Kyrie, who is a spiritual teacher here in San Diego, who has come up with some work that she is doing in Donovan State Prison that is literally changing lives, melting hearts. This beautiful stuff is going on. And, you know, I'm so excited about what she's doing. First of all, because when I started doing my homework on what's actually going on in the prison system and how few people are successful once they're out, it's just heartbreaking. Mm-hmm. And a big part of the problem is the rehabilitation piece, you know, and when they come out that they're so surrounded by stigma and lack of opportunity. So if you're just joining us, Brahman Kyrie has been talking about the spiritual classes she's teaching. She's working with meditation and musical meditation, creating satsangs there where the men actually can experience shifting their energy in this beautiful, positive way. She shared with us earlier that she's also doing inner child work with them, and that these guys that you would think are hardened, tough guys are, yes, they are working with their inner children, and they're really being moved and changed by it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
And also wonderful information that she shared with us is that the administration at the prison, the warden and the captains, they want these programs for the guys. There's a beautification project that she's working on with, it's going to include murals and plants and things. Will they have plants on their yard too?
Yeah, totally, yeah.
Yeah, so they can experience greenery and nature and life. So, oh my gosh, yes, I'm excited.
Me too.
About what's going on, because we want to grow this. We want to grow this model so that every prison in the U.S. and then eventually every prison in the world can offer people this opportunity to remember their humanity.
Yeah.
To not just feel like they don't matter, that they're garbage or defective now forever, but that they can remember that they have light inside, they have a soul, and that there's beauty in there.
We really do have to focus on healing these people. And I think, like, you know, there's some people that they may have to stay in prison for the rest of their life for their own safety and others. Like that is a reality that is true. But they still deserve healing and the opportunity to heal should they wish to take it. And so that's really my focus, is to bring the love and hold a space for these people to remember who they are, just like it was done for me. You know, I come from the same background, as I've said before, and I don't know where I would be if not for the love and compassion of those around me that held a space for me while I was in the process of remembering that I'm a child of God, you know? Yeah, so that's what we're trying to do.
And when you're making bad decisions, it's really hard to connect with the idea that you're a child of God, right?
Absolutely. I rejected it for many years when I very first started. I got clean and sober, like I said, 12 years ago, and the first few years of this journey, I was rejecting that I was worth anything, really, you know, and it was very hard, and until I just kept at it and people kept holding the space and kept allowing me to get in touch with love and heal, and then heal my trauma, and specifically my trauma. Like these guys, if we don't help them heal their trauma, they're just going to keep reacting from that same place, you know. And so when I first say inner child, I get some funny looks, you know, from the guys. But when I explain that it's their pain body and their emotional body, and it's that we have to reclaim and heal in order for them to react or respond differently to life's circumstances, you know. And then when we actually practically do those things in class, and then I give them tools around how to do that on their own, they have an experience and they can't deny that stuff. And another really important thing that I teach them that are spiritual tools, that none of this is religious by any means. As I said, like, I'm multi-faith, you know. I believe all pathways, there's many of them that go to God, and I've had many experiences with many masters, you know, in the physical, but also, you know, like, for example, Jesus saved my life, and so I share that with them, and so it's like all pathways, we honor all pathways, and so these are spiritual teachings that just help people develop their own connection with their God and themselves.
I love that, because if it's just one specific religion, then maybe some relate and some don't.
Yeah.
But, excuse me, but spiritual teachings, they're kind of universal truths that everybody can find their way into.
That's it.
And I think that that piece, for me, is the most important piece. Because I kind of strayed from the church that I was brought up in originally. But it was funny, you know, when my husband got sober and I started going to Al-Anon, that's when I reconnected with what they referred to as a higher power.
Right.
I always knew that existed, but I had become uncomfortable with the way it was talked about within my religion. So that was a path for me to get back.
That's great.
And I think one of the things you're doing that's so important is, and we don't always look at this, you know, we know we all have a mental body, that we have an emotional body and all that, but we have a spiritual body. Humans have a spiritual nature, and if we don't have any teaching about that, or if someone doesn't show us how to pay attention to that part of ourselves, we're just trying to struggle and do it all on our own. And I find people who are in my office all the time, the ones that are the most unhappy are the ones that don't believe there's anything beyond them. So it's all on them. All the weight of life, the responsibility, trying to make it work, it's all on them. And for these guys, I would think that's really heavy to think that it's all on you, whether you make it when you get out or that you got yourself here. If you don't have somewhere to go, some intelligence that's bigger than you that you can lean on, what do you do?
Yeah, and a lot of them are deeply religious and spiritual. Like, it's actually really amazing. And I think the element that we bring is that healing component around the trauma and the past pain and the mental mastery around, through me sharing my personal experiences, much of my stories are very similar in nature to a lot of these guys, and then what I did and what I do today to maintain a healthy mind, the different practices that I use when I'm triggered today. I think that we all get triggered. It would be dishonest if I said I never got triggered. I absolutely get triggered, and that's not the problem. The most important thing is how I deal with that trigger. Yes. And so I give real life examples, like some things happen as I'm on my way there, and then I share my experience around what happened and what I did, and then because that's really the way out. These guys need real life practical examples of how do I do this when I'm triggered, and what I know about myself is I make really bad decisions historically when I'm wounded or afraid. When I'm and sometimes I don't even know that I'm wounded or afraid. I'm too busy in the reaction already. And so what I help to give these guys is what I personally do historically and today around when I'm afraid or I'm wounded, how I deal with those emotions and what I do with my mind in those moments.
And is there something you can share with our listeners that you do that's helpful?
Totally, yeah. So if I'm triggered and I'm angry, or if I feel if I'm sad or hurt, I will take a couple of moments. I'll put my hand on my heart chakra, which is in the center of my chest. So I put my hand on my heart, and I immediately, so I pause. I leave space for grace. So I allow for God or the divine or whatever you want to call it to just come in, even if I'm really triggered and I've got emotion like up to my ears. Like I put my hand on my heart. And I just pause, and then I really focus all my attention on communicating with the wounded part of me, which is my inner child, which is my little girl. And I always remind her, I've got you, I'm not leaving, and you are totally loved and perfect. I just affirm that I've got her. And then most of the time, that emotional trigger within a few moments leaves my body, and then I'm able to access that other part in my brain, But when I'm triggered, or when anyone's triggered, we're just in the back part,
Totally.
And we can't access that reasoning, or we can't access a higher response because we're in the triggered part of the back, in the back of the back of the brain. And so I just need that little bit of space. And when my inner child knows that I'm there, and now because I've been doing it for so long, my emotional body gets with the program really quickly, because she trusts me.
Yeah,
because I'm available to my I'm available to my emotional self. And that's what I do.
I think that's so huge, and I think it may be surprising to some people that you can do something that simple. And it really does make a difference.
Yeah.
Because most of us would never walk past a crying child sitting on the curb.
No.
But we walk past our inner children all the time.
That's
we don't acknowledge that they're hurt or they're wounded or they're scared.
Yeah.
And in our society, especially for men, it's a lot more acceptable to say you're angry than it is to say you're scared.
That's right, and that's why these teachings are so important, because it's not like when I first heard about the inner child, I thought it was a bit flaky, to be honest. I was like, oh, it's very bit flaky, a bit therapy-like. But when I started applying the actual tools and I started to change profoundly how I reacted to life, I was like, oh my God, this is actually the most powerful tool I've ever learned to change how I respond to life. And for me, coming from a place of deep trauma and woundedness, and a person who struggled immensely with my emotions, it was like being given the keys to the kingdom.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so huge. So we need to tell people how they can help.
Okay.
Because this beautiful, first of all, let's remind you again that April.
And we use them for chanting mantra, like a daily spiritual practice. And so the whole community donated money for for each inmate to receive one mala and one silk pouch to put the malas in. And I travel to India very often, 3 times a year or whatnot, to connect with my guru, Sri Shakti Amma. And so when I was over in India, we bought all the malas, Amma blessed them, and then we brought them back. And so it's super sacred. Like each inmate, there was lots of tears that day actually, where I presented each participant in my classes with their own blessed mala and their own silk pouch to keep their mala in. And whenever I go in, they're all wearing them and doing their Om Namo Narayani, which is a particular mantra that we do, which means I surrender to the divine. I bow to the divine. So
that's so beautiful.
So
and if you want more information, you can go to the Brahman, BRAHMAN project.com. Is it the or just
it's
Brahman?
The
Brahman project.com. And if you are moved to donate, to help with this, to come and attend on April 3rd, that would just be so beautiful and so wonderful. And I just, again, want to thank Brahman Kyrie for not only the amazing work she's doing, but for coming here and honoring me with her presence.
Of course.
And sharing with all of us this beautiful work that she's doing. And so let's all set the intention together to grow this work so that every prison in the world can offer men the opportunity to get back in touch with their humanity and their souls so they can take that self out into the world.
Yes. Totally.
And thank you all for being with us. You can hear us on AM 1170 The Answer, 9 o'clock Sunday evenings, also FM 96.1. And we are on every major podcast platform, including iHeartRadio. So please stay with us, listen to upcoming shows, and if you'd like to listen to past shows, you can find them on changeitupradio.com. We've had a lot of amazing guests, but today is one of my favorite shows of all time. Thank you, Brahman Kyrie.
Thank you, Paula, for having me.
And thank you all. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.
That was so great. You're amazing at that. You're totally amazing. That was awesome.
Oh, let's see. So Facebook live stream. Oh, you know what? I may not have a mic. Do I have a mic? Oh, well. Bye.
That was great. You're amazing.
Steps of success.